I have something to show you, and it is a bit embarrassing. This is a disaster just waiting to happen. And there is a slight chance that I once set fire to my garage because of this exact problem. So I decided to help you avoid my mistakes so you can get your beauty sleep and not burn down your house or boat or whatever needs not burning down. So let's talk about how to not do that and instead make something that actually works, like this. First order of business is tools, and you need 4 of them. You need a cable cutter, a cable stripper, a crimper, and a heat gun. Cable cutter is about $15 and the same for the stripper. No, the crimper is by far the most expensive at around $35, including a mallet or rock or anything to just whack it with. And if you go pro, you'll get a hydraulic crimper. It is about $55, but it is well worth the money. The heat gun is optional, but if you've ever tried to use a candle on heat shrink, then you're welcome. It's $15. And that brings the total amount of money spent on tools to around $80 to $100. That to me is fairly affordable. Now it's time to make a wire. For that you need some heat shrink, a copper lug that will fit your wire of choice. I've gone with 50 square millimeters, which is this gauge if you are living in the land of the free. If you're working with marine applications or anything that's getting wet, then I suggest using tin-plated copper lugs and wires. That will help with keeping the corrosion down. Also, do yourself a favor and get some heat shrink with glue in it. It is standard in most applications, especially if you're working with boats. I only have this regular heat shrink, so I am going glueless, living life on the edge. Now let's make a wire. First cut the wire to length. Then you cut a bit of heat shrink, about 4 times the length of the foot of the lug. You then get the stripper. No, Tatum, no. If you have a joggery as I do, you can set the cutting depth on the bottom. You then cut and de-sleeve the wire. Be careful not to cut into the strands, and then you slide on the lug. Place the wire in the crimper of your choice and whack away. While you're going at it, try hitting the like button. I've heard good things will happen if you do, but only if you do it once. Finally, slide the heat place in shrink and fire up the heat gun. And now you have a perfectly sealed wire that will last you for many, many, many years. And make sure that the heat shrink is all the way down to the flat bit of the lug. Some people insist that you use no locks or similar products to prevent water intrusion and corrosion. Those people are wrong, and you should not take their advice. If you've made your wire correctly and followed my instructions, then you have made a gas tight joint here. That means water intrusion is not a thing. In best case scenario, using no locks is just a waste of money. In the worst case scenario, you get the no lock screw on the lug and the cable, which prevents a good adhesion between the heat shrink and whatever you are shrinking it to. That's not good. Plus, it's made for aluminum, and we don't use that junk in our wires or lugs. But how do you spot a good connection from a bad one? I mean, in this case, it's pretty dang obvious. This one, no one in their right mind would use this. Maybe except for that one time where That is an excellent question, and it is not as straightforward as you might think. It basically comes down to experience. I mean, how it looks and feels when you wiggle it. Really, to make sure your crimp is good, use a hydraulic crimper. This baby is gonna make a perfect crimp every single time. It is well worth the extra $20. Buy it. However, if you insist on going with this tiny wagger, then experience really is your best bet. The only thing I can say is that the sound will change. It may sound weird, but when you hit it and the crimp is ready, it will go from sounding like you're hitting a tin can to a much more solid thud, like hitting an anvil or something. So what kind of wire and lugs should you be using, and in what kind of environment? Well, that's an excellent question, and if I may direct your attention to this video, I think you'll find the answers that you're looking for. There, I make the main point that you never, ever, ever want to buy aluminum cables or lugs. Ever. I think I made the point. Small gauge wires, anyone?